Accelerated Spanish, Episode 88. How fast do you want to be fluent in Spanish? Using our tested system that combines timeless language learning hacks with a memory palace of mnemonics, you can be ready to integrate with native speakers in as little as 1 month. In this episode, we're going to learn several new abstract nouns that are used in various ways, including a noun that's found on Joel's kitchen floor, a new area that we haven't really explored yet. Let's begin, as usual, in Joel's refrigerator and freezer for nouns that tend to be used along with the preposition de. We'll begin in the freezer on the left side. There's a tiny broom in here. One time, Joel hid himself in the freezer, and when the chef opened the freezer door, Joel hit the chef with a broom, and then said, "It's just a joke. We're bros, we can do that." Joel's word for joke is broma, so it seems to emphasize the word broom, but pronounced like brom, broma. When something is done as a joke, you might say that it's done de broma. Next, let's go down into the refrigerator. On the right side, in the door of the refrigerator, the bird has created a tiny tent under the Modo ice cream maker. She pretends that this is to shelter her from the dripping ice cream, but her real intent here, when she's in the tent, is to hide here so that she can fly out when Joel opens the door and doesn't see her hiding in the tent. The word here is intento, and what it can mean is intent, intention, or attempt. Basically, it represents what you're trying to do. Now let's go to Joel's kitchen cabinets or shelves, where we store nouns that tend to be used with tener. We have 2 new words on the left side and 1 new word on the right side. On the left side, there's a girl who looks a lot like the tipo guy from the stage in Joel's living room. But here she's pacing along the edge of the shelf, unsure of whether or not to use her skateboard. She keeps saying, "Dude, I'm not sure. Dude." The word here is duda. What it means is uncertainty, doubt, or question. In Spanish, a doubt or uncertainty is typically a duda, and this applies to questions as well. For example, if a teacher asks you, "Do you have any questions about any of this?" Instead of using the word pregunta, they're likely to use the word duda. Nearby, there are a bunch of the yawning people, like the ones from the kitchen island, that are up here on the left side of these shelves. They're having a meeting here, standing in a circle, and yawning together. The word here is reunión. It's very much like the English word reunion, but what it means is meeting, in any sense of the term meeting, like when people are meeting together. On the right side, Joel now has a pet lizard that he keeps in these cabinets. It's like a much smaller version of his friend, the lizard, but he has a lot of respect for this pet, and he shows it by petting it very gently. Joel really likes lizards and respects them. The word here is respeto. So it's like the English word respect, but there's no C. It's not respect, but it's respeto. Here's a sentence example with duda and reunión. I have a question. Do I have to go to the meeting as well? Tengo una duda. ¿Yo también tengo que ir a la reunión? Now let's go down to the walls where we have nouns that are used with dar. On the right side of these walls, Joel has a tiny screen that displays random inspirational quotes. When he feels inspirable, he asks the chef to read one of these out loud. "Give me a tip," or "give me some advice." Most often, he rejects the advice that he hears, mostly because he doesn't have much respect for anything that the chef has to say. This screen of inspirational quotes represents a bit of a tricky word in Spanish. The word is consejo. So the stress is on se because it says inspirational quotes. What consejo means is advice or tip. So typically the word advice in English is translated in some way or another to consejo in Spanish. In the sentence example that you're about to hear, the term advice in English is turned into un consejo, or a tip or piece of advice in Spanish. Please, I don't need advice, only that you do the attempt of listening to me. Por favor, no necesito un consejo, solo que hagas el intento de escucharme. Now let's go below the counter to the kitchen floor. Words that we'll learn on the kitchen floor are typically used with the preposition a. For now, the word is cargo. There's a tiny car that takes supplies around the kitchen. Joel and the chef always argue about who should control this car because they disagree over who's in charge in the kitchen. Joel always says, mi cargo, rather than tu cargo or su cargo. This word, cargo, is a bit of a false cognate. It doesn't tend to refer to cargo the way that we think of it in English. Instead, it represents charge, as in who's in charge of something. And typically, the way that this is used is you would say something is a mi cargo, or a su cargo, or a nuestro cargo, or something like that. Basically, a, and then a possessive pronoun, and then cargo. Next, let's go inside the island to words that tend to be preceded by en. On the camino path inside the island, there's a tin can with a string. The only way that the people on the path can contact the outside world is to talk into this can. This represents a simple cognate, the word contacto. So remember, to be in contact with someone would be to be en contacto con someone. You can also use this word to represent a contact, as in somebody that's in your contacts list. For example, I have a contact and his information is on a piece of paper. Tengo un contacto y su información está en un papel. Now let's go up to the top of the kitchen island for the rest of our nouns. First, we're going to learn some yon cognates. We have acción and investigación. These words mean action or act, in the case of acción, and research or investigation, in the case of investigación. These are pretty easy to relate to the yawning crowd near Joel's vista. They're pretending to be researching or investigating what Joel is doing, and Joel is not very happy with their action or act. So we have acción and investigación. Now, do you remember Gary, the guy who started a war and has this wanted poster near Joel's vista? The stripes on Gary's tie list a bunch of the places that Gary fought battles to start his war. The word that these represent is a cognate, the word for battle. It's pronounced batalla. So it seems to stress tie, like a Gary's tie. Batalla. Next to Gary, some people are throwing whipped cream on Joel's precious vista. He calls this a cream crime, because he thinks it's a crime to throw cream on his vista. His word for crime is crimen. Remember that we also learned the word música over here on the left side of the island. Joel is starting to expand on his interest in music. He's put a bunch of tin cans on the left side of his island, and Joel really doesn't know how to sing, but he's found that if he yawns into one of the cans, the sound comes out like a particular song, because these tin cans are very special. Each can has a different song when he yawns into it. Joel's word for song is canción, so it stresses yawn, but it has can at the beginning. So una canción is a song. Now near the cans, Joel has a bigger can that represents a major work. It's basically like an opera. It's an extremely long, complex series of songs when he spends a long time yawning into it. He calls this his obra. He's basically mispronouncing the word opera. Now, the thing is that the word obra can actually be any work of art. It doesn't have to be an opera. It could be a play or really any work of art. It represents the word work in this sense, obra. Let's look at some sentence examples. I like action films as well as horror. Me gustan tanto las películas de acción como las de terror. I have already told you this is not your battle. Ya te lo he dicho. Esta no es tu batalla. In the next example, we're going to use the word canción, but to say playing a song or putting on a song, we use the verb poner. This is very commonly used with playing music. I love this song. Can we put it on again? Me encanta esta canción. ¿Podemos ponerla otra vez? During the play, the audience seemed to be having fun. Durante la obra, el público parecía muy divertido. Now let's learn two more words. They're going to be masculine words on the right side of Joel's island. One of Joel's secrets in his secreto crate pertains to a murder that he may or may not have been involved in. He tries to get rid of the murder weapon, which is a rope, but it's tied into a tight knot on the crate. So this murder evidence is stuck with Joel. If you think of the stress syllable not in association with murder, you'll remember the noun asesinato, which means murder or assassination, as a noun. Close by, near the Juego Wig, two people are squirming next to each other on the ground, like they're doing the inchworm dance move. This is actually the most common kind of dance in Yol, even though it's very strange and awkward. And it's called the baile. One of these people lay down by the other one. So you put the word by with lay for baile. So it's sort of a partnered inchworm dance. But in Spanish, the word baile simply means dance as a noun. In tomorrow's episode, we'll go upstairs and work on a bunch of new location nouns, including words for planet, window, shop, and forest. This show is brought to you by masterofmemory.com. Music for this episode was provided by the Seattle Marimba Quartet, and I'm Timothy, encouraging you to take action. Knowledge is not power until it's applied, so start speaking Spanish now at SpanishinOneMonth.com.